Hello, everyone. This is Ben Dunn, founder of Antarctic Press, a comic book publishing company founded in 1985. Creator of such comics as Warrior Nun, Tomorrow Girl, Marvel Mangaverse, Ninja High School, and a host of other comics. I'm seeing a trend recently that seems to be coming to fruition. What trend, Ben? What trend are you talking about? Well, I'm seeing a backlash occurring to this so-called cancel culture. Now, for those who are not familiar with cancel culture, that was a time when, if someone didn't agree with something someone said, their political leanings, or whatever they felt that they didn't agree with, they would go out of their way to try to get them canceled. Now, what I mean by canceled is that they did whatever they could to ruin that person's life. They either got them fired, spread rumors about them, attacked them personally, and basically tried to make things miserable for that person whom they had a disagreement with. I'm seeing now that things are going the opposite direction. Sort of a backlash. One of the things that we try to avoid as a company, Antarctic Press specifically, is that we've learned to keep our mouths shut. We don't enter into the world of politics or try to, virtue signal or do anything else like that. Our main task is to make comics. That should be our only task, is to make comics. Making comics is our business, and our business is to entertain. Why do you care what our, stance is on a particular subject? Shouldn't make any difference. Shouldn't detract from our main purpose as a company, our mission goal. But those who engaged in cancel culture are finding out that there are consequences. Call it destiny, call it karma, call it fate, call it whatever you want. The very fact is that all things we do as humans, has consequence. There's a thing called a butterfly effect, where the fluttering of a butterfly in Sumatra can cause a hurricane, along the east coast of America. Now, everything connects to each other. When you or anybody decides to engage in the ruination of someone else's life, if they don't intimately know that person or know who he is, and lack empathy for that person into why he would take that stance or say a particular thing. If he engages in attack, whoever decides to engage in attack to try to ruin someone's life, eventually that's going to come back. Because I'm a firm believer of things like that. Live by the sword, die by the sword is what they used to say. The thing about it is that, what are you trying to achieve by doing this? Are you trying to just simply ruin someone's life because you disagree with them? We used to be able to debate. We used to talk things out. We used to be able to listen. You can disagree with somebody, sure. But if your idea is better, prove it. Show that your idea is better. You don't try to ruin someone's life. You know, one of the things that people say is that when you mess with a man's living, then you better be prepared for the consequence of that. Because, you know, it's going to eventually come back. And now we're seeing the result of people becoming aware of those who are trying to basically ruin someone else's life because they have a disagreement. You know, and that is something that, you know, is coming to fruition. Are we seeing a consequence culture now? Well, I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. You know, and I think that what we say can have profound effect on what happens in the future. You know, what I'm saying to you now, I don't know, maybe, you know, maybe it's for nothing, you know, but I feel like I have to say it because I, for one, am tired of all these energy being spent on non-productive, non-creative endeavors. If our industry, the comic book industry, you know, in specifically, and maybe the entertainment industry as a whole, if we just focused all our energy on creative endeavors, you know, how much could we actually accomplish? You know, why are we spending so much time attacking others in our industry? I mean, it's one thing to attack a political figure, because political figures can greatly affect how we live our lives. You know, they can pass laws, tax us, arrest us. You know, they can do things that could profoundly change our lives. And that is why it's important that to be part of the political process. You know, you're basically supporting people who agree with you in the way we live our lives. Now, attacking somebody that has no effect on you at all, other than you just disagree with them, what does that ultimately achieve? You know, all it does is create animosity. It creates, you know, it creates sides. It creates, you know, it creates, I don't know, what is it, ill feelings toward each other, that we get to the point where we don't trust each other. You know, we can't open up to each other. We can't disagree with other on a profound level. It just seems so detrimental. And I think it's one of the reasons why we can't seem to get out of our funk in the comic book industry. You know, we say sales are down, but why are sales down? You know, ask yourself that fundamental question. Is it the economy? Well, maybe. That has something to do with it. But you know what? I've seen bad economies before. You know, this one, you think this one's bad? We've had several very bad economies, and yet comics survived. And no problem. You know, we may have to tighten our belts a little bit, but you know what? As long as people still bought comics, enough people bought comics, then we survive. Now, the problem is are enough people buying comics? Well, they're buying comics. It's just they're buying comics called manga. Will manga last? I don't know. You know, I've learned that things are cyclical. Manga may be hot now, but sooner or later, it's going to come back. You know, some, you know, American artist or creator, it's going to set the world afire. And people are going to talk about it. All it takes is one. You know, I mean, when J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, people were saying, oh, no one reads books anymore. Kids don't read books anymore. But Harry Potter proved them wrong. You know, people say, no one goes to see movies anymore. But yet, people still see movies. We have several that just came out recently going to hit the $1 billion mark. I mean, it's very interesting that people always like to predict doom and gloom because of a downturn. They predict doom and gloom because they themselves, are wanting it. They feel like this is something that, they can create fear. Fear is the mind killer, as they say. You can, and as Franklin Roosevelt would say, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. If we let all this talk of doom and gloom, the comic book industry is ending, we're all going to die, that to me is not helpful. It's hyperbolic. It seems very ill-conceived. If you know you're heading toward a cliff, stop. Do something to prevent yourself from falling over that cliff. Find ways, solutions to fix the problem. The reason Antarctic Press has survived for so long, I think, and this is just my personal take on it, is because we've kept our mouths shut. We don't take sides on anything. We respect our readers. We treat them like family because we need them, more than they need us. We don't get a lot of attention, but we don't care. As long as we know the product we're putting out is, being supported, that we enjoy doing it, and that we're transparent in our dealings. We're trying to be forthcoming to all our creators, to all our fans. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. We don't use subterfuge. We don't try to hide anything. There are certain things, of course, that are privileged to us because, we got to have some secrets in order to stay afloat. But the fact of the matter is, for the most part, we try to maintain a level of transparency and respect that has allowed us to remain in business for the last nearly 40 years. And I've seen them come and go. I've seen publishers come and go. So I would present to you that stop with this cancel culture stuff. It doesn't do us any good. And eventually you're going to find out that people are going to realize that what you're doing has had negative consequences, toward themselves and toward the industry as a whole. They're going to learn very quickly that what you say and what you do is going to come back and haunt them. I'm hoping that as a whole we can somehow get together, and find solutions to problems that we have. My main thing about the comic industry is not the industry itself, it's the content. I saw that sales are down for comics and graphic novels by 7%. That's a huge margin. Don't get me wrong. I'm not belittling that fact. However, on the opposite end, crowdfunding comics have seen an explosion in support. People are discovering it. A lot of people have not yet discovered Kickstarter and Indiegogo and a lot of these crowdfunding sites. They're finding out that they can get comics in different venues. And once the public at large find out, well, what is this Kickstarter thing going on here? And then people will start to explore it and it'll become even bigger than before. And I even predict that sooner or later, these crowdfunding sites will start distributing and publishing their own work. I wouldn't be surprised if Kickstarter decides that, hey, you know what? We need a part of this pie. You know, we can make more money creating our own stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. We can create more money distributing it. We make more money fulfilling. I mean, wherever there's money to be had, there's going to be people who are going to want, to take advantage of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's our capitalist system. You go where the money is. And people are discovering that I don't have to go buy my comics from comic stores or from the Marvel or DC. Now, I fully support comic stores. I love comic book stores. Comic book stores are fantastic, However, they need to adapt. They need to change. If a comic book store is failing, why is that so? Why look failure in the face, when you confront it, when you should confront it? Even though I will tell you, there have been several times Anarchy Press faced bankruptcy. But we did what we had to do. We knew that problem was there. We knew it was coming. But instead of just laying back and saying, what's the point? What's the use? We might as well give up. There's nothing we can do. We got together and figured out a solution. If it meant firing people, that's what we did. If it meant cutting back on expenses, that's what we did. If it meant, improving our product line and finding out what people are wanting to buy, that's what we did. We did whatever we could to survive. And this is what the comic industry needs to do. We need to do whatever we can to survive. We need to stop trying to create enemies within ourselves. We need to stop, insulting our fans, berating our readers. This needs to stop now. And we need to focus like a laser on improving the industry as a whole. I mean, there are things we can do. There are several ideas I've had, but I just don't have the finances to implement them. I think the first thing that needs to change is the content. We need to bring people back into comic stores. And this is where I think independent comics come in. I think the idea that we no longer have to rely on the big two for our content is something that is a positive step in creating a diverse mix of product that appeals to the widest number of people as possible. There's nothing wrong with focusing on niche product too. I mean, Anarchy Press thrives on that. We don't compete with Marvel and DC because that's suicide. Any company that says they're going to go head-to-head directly with Marvel and DC, they're running a fool's errand. They're fooling themselves. It can't be done. Marvel and DC are so entrenched, in superhero comics, nobody can defeat them other than themselves. The only way that they'll collapse is from within. They're not going to fall from an outside source or outside competitor. They're going to fall from within. Their own internal rot will cause them to collapse. So I wouldn't be surprised, in fact, if Marvel bought DC. It would not surprise me one iota if Marvel were to buy DC. I'd be, in fact, I would think that Disney would want to buy DC because this way they own almost the entirety of this superhero universe, and they could cross over with DC a huge number. They would buy DC just for Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman alone. Never mind the entire roster of the DC universe. Just for those three characters, if DC were ever up for sale, I would almost guarantee that either Disney or one other company would buy it, just to own those three characters, because they're so iconic. But regardless of that, we as independent creators have to provide an alternative. If we can provide alternatives or fill a need that isn't being met, then that's what we need to do. No one doing furry books, that's what we do. No one does steampunk books, that's what we'll do. We were doing manga before manga was even a word in the lexicon. And I'm happy that things have, at least one section of the industry is thriving. And it shows that there is still a demand for comics. It's just, you got to give people a reason to come to comic stores so that it can reach the widest number of people. We've started using a new model for ourselves, is that we look at Kickstarter independent creators and see if they're willing to let us publish their book so that they can get into comic stores, so they can get more exposure for work they've already completed. That seems to me the new paradigm for Antarctic Press, and that's what we're striving to do. We've done very well with books like Niobe and by Larry Higgins, and Critter by Tom Hutchinson, and Pooh, by Nicholas Mueller, and other comics that started off as Kickstarter projects, that are now in comic book stores. People may poo-poo that they're in comic, but why not take advantage of a new source of revenue? It's a new revenue stream. Why would you want to say, no, I don't want more money? That's a ridiculous attitude to take. You've done the work. You should embrace every revenue stream that you can get. Every single one that you can possibly attach yourself to. So hopefully we're going to see the end of this whole cancel culture thing, because I think people, quite frankly, are sick of it. I think that they're tired of it. They don't want to have to fight battles that are unnecessary. The only battle we should be fighting is the ability to save the comic book industry. To make it thrive once again. To make it so that creators can make a living writing and drawing comics, and entertaining people. That's what we should be doing, focusing our attention on. So if you like what you've heard, please subscribe. Like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me. And if you agree or disagree, you can comment below. I do read them. And until next time, this has been Dunn, signing off.